Hi, I'm Tanya H. Franklin, and welcome to Tricks My Dog Taught Me, a podcast for lighthearted and occasional deep conversations with family and friends, revolving around my journey as a dog mom to my little guy, Zach the Toy Poodle, which prompted me to self-publish my first book. Shit My Dog Taught Me, where I share some of my insights through poetry and weekly life lessons. So for today, this is a very special episode, one that's been 50 years and a little over 18 months in the making. In week 3, she described herself as having brains and beauty and the smart, versatile, and friendly nature of an American Eskimo if she were a dog breed. And she's the woman who spent years at the front of the classroom before deciding in her 40s that she was no longer going to hold out on her dreams and that the next setting would be at a patient's bedside as a nurse. Now, if you know her from our younger years, she was the cool one who spent parts of our childhood picking on me, the nerdy one. But our bond is stronger than ever now, and I'm grateful for that. Now, she hit the big 5-0 this past January 2026, and today we're peeling back the layers of not only what reaching that milestone means to her, but that constant internal pressure from week 22's poem, Hold It! The struggle to stay composed when the situation and the setting don't feel right. So I'm happy to welcome back my big sister and the newest member of the 50/50 Club, Tanisha Harris. Thanks so much for agreeing to join me again, Tanisha.
Thank you for having me.
Now, while the poem is inspired by Zach and his ability to hold it, like when we're outside, and you may have even seen some of these reels where he has to find the perfect spot to do his business. Like he will hold it until it's the perfect spot. And I feel like this poem, it's about us. It's about women and how sometimes we have to hold it for the perfect spot. Some previous guests, they've joined me and we've talked about many topics from the oh-ish moments in our lives to different pet peeves. But today I want to talk about the things we don't say, and specifically the incredible, sometimes exhausting energy it takes to hold everything inside. So before we get into that, I want to share the poem, which is relatively short, but I feel like it's going to serve as a foundation for today's conversation. Hold it. The situation and the setting don't feel right. Just try to hold it. So nice and short. So in hearing the poem, I just want to know, how do you feel or what comes to your mind?
I would say stressful situations that may arise where you have to really think about before you react. Sometimes we react without thinking.
Hmm. Yeah, I know I probably think too much and have a tendency, I've gotten a little better at that, but have a tendency to hold it in for too long. And then by the time I'm ready to release it, the moment has gone by. All right. So that command, just try to hold it. That's how the poem ends. And I feel like this is something that so many of us are taught to do. We're taught to have a certain composure. I mean, that's our armor, right? And we're taught to press pause sometimes on our own feelings. I know I do all the time, to keep a situation from boiling over, especially if we're in a room, whether that be an actual space or even a mental space that doesn't feel right. But interestingly, I've never viewed you in this way, that since we were younger, you seem to always say what's on your mind. But I want to consider that I'm not in your mind, and I'm wondering if maybe I'm mistaken about that characterization.
You're not. You're not. But as I've, gotten older, it is a little bit different. I do try to think a little bit more about, the other person or just examine the situation. Is it even worth me saying something or just let it go? So picking and choosing my battles is something that I really have been working on.
Mhm. Why do you think it was easy for you to not hold it when you were younger? I won't say easy, but clearly you did that. So, what do you think it was that allowed you to let it out?
It's just, I guess, the person I was then. The person I was as, I guess, a child. If I have something to say, I'm gonna say it.
Mhm.
And that's it. It doesn't matter how you feel,
Mhm.
which is not good.
Mhm.
But so as a grown up, I know that's not the right thing to do. You have to spare people feelings and then learn how to, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So that's when you have to take time out to think about, how am I going to say this to that person?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and like I was saying, I think that for me, I do that too much sometimes where I'm wondering, how am I going to say this?
Mhm.
And then the right time to say it has gone by and I didn't get a chance to really
Mhm.
say what I wanted to because I was holding it all in. And so, my poem, it says the situation and the setting don't feel right. You're officially a woman in who just turned 50. And so I think sometimes in modern settings, you said how you've evolved in modern settings, whether it's socially or professionally. Do you now feel that sometimes you have to hold it, or maybe even feel like you have to mask what you're actually feeling about something, possibly to spare someone's feelings or because it's just not the right setting?
Again, it depends on the situation at work. Yeah, I'm probably gonna mask a whole lot of things
Yeah.
because you don't want things to really to come out at work because at least where I work at, people are known for typing up emails.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful what you say and what you do.
Hmm.
But my social life, um, I probably may speak a little bit more without, thinking about it. But I have tried to replay different scenarios in my head of, okay, if I say this, then this person might do this, or maybe I just let this one go. And maybe next time I'll say something. But sometimes we had a tendency to hold stuff in too long, like you were saying. And then when we let it out, oh, we going back to 1993 when you did this. And so that's what we don't want to do because it's a buildup. So you
Hmm.
you ready to snap on anything. You
Hmm.
bringing up everything. Details when you was 5 years old. I remember that time you stole those Cheetos from me.
Hmm.
Like, and it's like, okay, can we get to the present? So I think that tends to happen when we hold on too long. You start, have all these things in your head that this person did or you did not like.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that when you said that, it made me think about we're looking at the timing from our point of view
Mm.
as opposed to the timing from the person who's going to be the recipient of whatever it is that we're holding on to. And they might be ready to hear whatever it is that we need to
Mhm.
tell them. I mean, I think, as you said, it depends on how we're saying it necessarily and what our intention is behind it. But I think, I know for me, I might think a person's going to react a certain way. And it's all in my head, and I'm holding on to it. And then when I eventually get around to saying what I want to say, it's like they're like, "Oh, okay." And so I'm like, "Why did I hold on to it for all that time
Right.
that I just got in my own way?" And so I think sometimes that happens. And so you're officially, what the term they use, auntie. You're in the auntie era.
Yeah.
I'm right there behind you by
Okay.
18 months.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, what's one thing that you started doing or saying? Because you said you try to hold back now, but is there something that you're doing or saying that you swore you'd never do in your 20s or 30s?
Well, I guess in my 20s, I think I might have been a little bit more confrontational.
Might have?
Okay, I was. Now, I think I'm more with the peace.
Mm.
I like my peace. drama free. I don't like any toxic stuff. I might indulge and watch it, but
Mhm.
I don't want to be a part of it. I want to
Mhm.
stand, to the side. I don't want no parts of it anymore. Before, yeah, I would have loved it. I want to
Mhm.
be all up in it. But now, yeah, I need my peace. And going back to me being 50, by me changing, I guess, some of the things about me, it also helps me as far as even the way I look. I don't look 50. No one thinks I'm 50, especially at my job. They give me 40s and I'm welcoming it. Like some of them still don't know how old I am. And I guess it's just, me not allowing things to stress me out.
Mhm.
So in my 20s, I let some things stress me out, but not a whole lot. Now I really, unless it's something major, I don't even give it two thoughts.
Mhm.
New day, new me. I'm just going to start fresh. Every day is a new chance to do something different and better.
I love that. I love that. And when you were saying it, it actually made me think about how something that people might hold on to is not even just their thoughts, but holding on to grudges. Like when you were saying, I remember, you took those Cheetos from me at 5 years old or something like
Mhm,
that. And I think in releasing anything like that and saying, I'm not going to hold on to the grudge or
mhm,
on to those negative feelings, that itself and releasing that, as you said, I feel like it allows us to be stress free. And that's certainly something that, while I'm not quite 50 yet,
mhm.
that I've gotten better at doing. And because I think that we all are capable of being ones who can hold grudges. And oftentimes the person you're holding a grudge against doesn't even know that you're holding a grudge against
True.
them. And
Mhm,
so who are you really holding a grudge against? Not them, yourself, because
mhm,
you've got all this pent up frustration and you have this negative energy in you that you're holding on to and creating a toxic environment for yourself. And it's not even just an outward physical environment, but you and your profession. I'm sure that you've seen some people who have an internal toxic environment health wise
mhm,
because they may be experiencing some type of stress because they're holding on to
mhm,
whatever it is that has
mhm.
gotten them just all wound up at
It's
some
true.
point in their lives, you know?
Definitely true.
Yeah.
I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
Mhm. Yeah. And so my poem it says that it doesn't feel right, but I'm wondering about a setting where you feel like you can be 100% you. Like you mentioned, at work, you might have to be a little mindful because you don't want any emails coming up. But what's a setting where you're like, you know what? 100% all day, every day, this is me.
Home with the family.
Yeah.
Now they accept you for who you are. They know you. They know this is Tanisha.
Hmm.
So they don't pay it no mind. They might feel some type of way, but they like, you know what? That's her. Who cares?
Hmm.
And I know I can be, like you said, 100% me.
What I think's interesting is people sometimes talk about the negatives of social media.
Mhm,
And while, of course, that's just a snapshot in most instances of a person where they're choosing what they want the public
mhm,
to see, I feel like it's such a welcoming environment in terms of my fitness journey. And so specifically with TikTok, not that it's not on other platforms, but there's so many people who will comment, "Oh, wow, you're doing amazing." And most of these people I've never met ever
mhm,
in my entire life. And they may not be kind in person, but they're certainly kind on there. And I even comment under theirs and say, "Oh,
mhm,
you're doing wonderful." And I feel like, wow, there's people who are at all different phases with their fitness journey or even just their journey in life in
mhm,
general. And it seems that most people are receptive to that and want to present a welcoming environment. And I'm like,
mhm,
wow, this is really nice. I mean, I know some people have a different story and they might have some negative
mhm.
situations or people trolling and things of that nature. Fingers crossed, I haven't had that situation. But I think that when you can be yourself, that it seems like wherever you go, even if it's not, even if you might hold back a little bit,
Mhm.
I still think that as long as you're being authentic, that you say, you know what, even if I am holding back, it's still 100% me, regardless of
Mhm.
the setting. So whether it's, like I said, TikTok or even at the gym in person,
Mhm.
and interacting with different people, that I just love the idea of being able to say, hey, I accept you for who you are.
Mhm.
And you don't have to put on an act or anything like that. And that's certainly something
Mhm.
when I was younger. And when I say put on an act, I don't mean be someone that I'm not, but hold in whatever I think may not be accepted by other people. Like I start off saying you're the cool one, I was looked at as the nerdy one and not wanting to be nerdy.
Mhm.
So, hey, I might act like I'm not as smart as I am. I'll hold off. I won't give answers on this. I won't raise my hand like when I was younger. I won't
Mhm.
raise my hand because I don't want anyone to think I'm a nerd. Or I won't say this because.
Mhm.
And so I think holding back in that way. So in present day, I won't say I don't do it at all, but it's certainly not to the level of which I once did it.
Okay.
And so I'm definitely grateful for that. I mean, I think sometimes we can hold our words and not even say anything. And it's the look. It makes me think about the look. Like we both grew up in a household where our mom would give the look, or grandmom, or even sometimes aunts who were famous for the look, quotation marks. That silent communication
Mhm.
that says everything without a word. And I'm wondering, do you possess the look? Or you said like how you won't say certain things at work at this point, or how you've gotten better at not saying certain things in a confrontational way, but do you sometimes give a look that tells them everything?
I believe that I do.
Yeah.
I'm told that, I don't have a poker face.
Mhm.
Like, you kinda already know what yeah, you know. Even at work, I can't control it. So, what's great about work is that since I work in the hospital, I wear a mask. So people don't know half the time what real faces I'm making. So it works to my advantage, but
Mhm.
it doesn't work when I'm saying hi to someone and smiling.
Mhm.
They don't know that I'm smiling at
Yeah.
them, so they don't even know. So, but yeah, I do. Yeah, my facial expressions are
Mhm.
not always good,
Yeah.
and like my kids, they know. They see the
Mhm.
face, they know. So it's definitely true.
Mhm. And I didn't, I mean, I will say that I know that I can make quite a few different
Mhm.
faces and have facial expressions and things of that nature, but I didn't realize how much Quinn picked up on it
Mhm.
until she would tell me. She said, "Oh, mommy, I can tell you're upset. You're making that face. You got that look." And I'm like, "I do." And so my default, especially with my students, is I'll smile. Even if there's something where I'm like, oh my gosh, they're asking me this question and I already answered it 3 times for 3 other students, and I'll just smile like, oh, well, just in case you didn't hear what I said the other 3 times, and I'll smile really big. And I'm because I know that if I don't smile, then I'm probably going to have this sour look on my face, like, why are they asking me this? I've already answered this 3 times.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I want to shift gears for a moment and talk a little bit about the internal, and we talked a little about on this, the internal struggle of holding it. So my poem says, just try to hold it. And I think that for many women, holding it means maintaining a certain level of excellence or calmness, or at least that's what we're expected to do, or for fear of being labeled difficult, or in our case, sadly, the angry Black woman.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if this resonates with you on your journey, whether it's at work, as a mom, or maybe even as my sibling, where you're saying, okay, I'm trying to hold it so that I'm not perceived as the difficult person.
Um, well, at work, they they believe that I am nice. They think I'm very nice, like very nice, very helpful, team player. Um, home. mm, they think I'm nice. They just think that when I get upset, I'm upset.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sibling, you, uh, yeah, maybe sometimes I might just hold it because I guess I like our relationship and I need it to stay that way.
Mhm.
So some things I'm like, it doesn't need to be said. And I'm sure it's vice versa. Some
Mhm.
things you just like, whatever.
Mhm.
It's not even that big of a deal.
Mhm.
So no. So yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
Okay, good, good. So, okay, and you kind of answered this one, but I want to ask it anyway, just in case there's a different answer. When you've spent a whole day in a setting that just doesn't feel right, maybe it is a high pressure work situation
Hmm.
or just even an uncomfortable social space, how do you physically decompress when you finally get through the front door? You mentioned home being where you can be 100% you.
Um, I'm probably gonna use work. Come in, take a shower, get something to eat, and my guilty pleasure is TV. So I will watch TV until I fall asleep, and then the next day I'm good. Like I just need to watch something that where it doesn't even matter. It
Mhm.
does. So that's pretty much what I
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
I sleep stuff off.
Yeah.
So
I wish I could. Do you dream? I'm wondering.
um, it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a
that's
lot.
why I said I wish I could because I have such vivid dreams. So a lot of times I can't if something's weighing on me, I can't
Mm-hmm.
sleep it off. It comes up in my dream.
Oh wow.
And so it's like, so
Continuation.
yes, a continuation. And I will say that that works. It has a balance because it works when there's something I'm excited about, and
Mm,
then I'll keep having dreams about that.
mm,
But then I'm so excited that I keep waking up out of it. Or then sometimes when it's a difficult day or a
mhm,
stress situation, then I'm dreaming about that. And I'm like, oh, so either way.
mhm,
But yeah, so I like when I'm even killed because then the dream is just a serene, calm, and
mhm.
it's not too excitable. Either it be too excitable because of something really positive or something that's negative too. If I could, and one of the things I actually started, we're talking about holding it, if I could hold on to certain dreams. I used
Mhm.
to actually keep a dream book.
Okay.
I stopped keeping my dream book because some of my dreams would be so bizarre. And I said, if anyone ever got a hold of this dream book, they would like, oh my gosh, we've got to lock her away. Like some of my dreams are really bizarre.
Oh.
And so I said, I'm stop keeping my dream book. But I don't know,
Mm,
I might do it again and hold on to some of those. But okay, so we grew up in the same household, but that doesn't mean that our experiences are the same. And so I'm curious to know if you felt like you were taught or encouraged to hold it, whether it was what you were thinking about or even what you were feeling about something.
so for me, I will say, in a way, I was taught that because I had a smart mouth.
Mhm.
So I had to learn to think before you speak or suffer the consequences like, or on the spot.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess it was kind of a learned experience after
Mhm.
a while because my mouth was really not the best.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, I feel like I was taught that. I remember the one phrase, and I'm not sure if it was said to you, to think before you speak, that phrase, or kind of like like an adults are talking type of phrase, where I felt like my voice wasn't necessarily going to be heard, so I would hold it anyway. Or I think one of the problems also is, let's say that we were having a squabble of some kind when we were younger. And if I were to come to our mom and say something, and she didn't necessarily say the phrase, nobody likes a tattletale. I heard that phrase a lot in grade school. Not that I was tattling, our teacher would just say it.
Mm.
And so then I would resist and hold it and not say anything. And so I feel like that carried on into the household where I wanted you to like me.
Mm.
And in wanting you to like me, I didn't want to say, well, Tanisha did this and Tanisha did that and she was calling me this, because I wanted you to like me. And so I would hold on, not always, but a lot of times I would hold on to how I was feeling,
Mm.
because I'm like, well, if I say something, then, and I don't handle it myself, then she's really not going to like me. So I'm not going to say anything about that. But I think also for me that the emotional side of things, where even though our mom didn't necessarily say it, it certainly was said within the household, and sometimes our grandma, maternal grandma, I'll give you something to cry for. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I joke about that, but
Yeah.
talk about holding in your emotions.
Yeah.
You're upset. You want to cry. As a child, you feel like you're within your rights to cry
Mm-hmm.
because something upset you. And it doesn't even have to be something upset you. It can be, like, I remember when we would play in the driveway. To be clear, there were no cars driving back and forth, but this is like our driveway where all the kids would play hide and seek or
Mm-hmm.
tag or something, and maybe someone gets injured and you're crying. And instead of the consoling, it was like, ain't nothing wrong with you. Get up. And then I forget, what was that stuff that
That
grandma,
red stuff.
yeah, the red
Oh
stuff.
my God.
And it burned like crazy.
It
And then
did.
you start crying. I give you something to cry for. You're like,
You
I
just
got,
did.
yeah, you gave me something to cry for. And so I'm thinking about in that way that, at least for me, I was told, okay, hold it in, be brave, because unless you want what's coming, you don't want it.
The additional.
So, you don't want the additional. So and so I think, I mean, we're joking about it, but I feel like that for me, I was resistant to say certain things or to say that something upset me because I didn't want the repercussions that came with that, So yeah. But it's good we can laugh about that now. But
Wasn't laughing
yes,
then.
no, was not laughing then. Definitely not laughing then. And so, I mean, I think, we've both been taught in different ways to just try to hold it. And so I'm wondering, I know I keep sticking you with this 50, so we'll say after a half century of life. What's one thing, or maybe there's more than one thing, that you officially are saying, you know what? I refuse to hold this in anymore, if you ever were.
I guess as if it's something really like a disagreement with someone that I think is a decent person,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I might want to address that, ASAP, because too much time to get away, and then it makes it a little bit harder to get back to where you were.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it actually just happened
Mm.
yesterday, which is weird. Like
Mm.
me, I guess, because it was such a stressful day, and asked the young lady, and I was like, "Well, I don't know what happened, but I'm a nice person. You're a nice person." I said, "I guess I don't know, is with the day or whatever." So we talked about it and hugged it out, and that was back to the way it was. But I guess I'm trying to be more like that with people that mean well.
Yeah.
If you don't mean well, I'm not trying to be mean, but I really don't care, because again, like you keep saying, I'm 50. I don't care anymore. That's on you, because I have more years behind me than I do ahead of me. So
Not necessarily. If you make it to centennial, you're right on the cusp. You're right on the cusp.
Well, you know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah.
The point being, I mean, I do, but I don't have a whole lot of years to be messing around with people that it's not worth my time.
Mhm.
So I do, recognize that at this age that,
Mhm.
okay, well, it is what it is. I'm not going around matching negative energy. You want to be that way, you be that way. I'm on to this.
Mhm.
So that's where my peace and drama free stuff is taking effect.
That's good. And I would say when you were saying that and sharing that experience, something that just popped into my head is how holding it almost this entire conversation we've been talking about holding on to potential negatives, but I think sometimes we hold on to the positives and we don't necessarily tell people. And I think it's necessary to do that,
Mm,
that we might say, oh, the next time I'll tell them.
mhm,
Or, oh, I really enjoyed this. But you might say it to yourself, but not necessarily vocalize that to the person who was a part of it. And I think that that's something that's important too, that often we hold on. And I think that even we were talking about within our household and our family, I think that that's something that has evolved in a positive way. We're holding on to not even just the emotions, but words, where I love you is not a common phrase that was used. And that doesn't mean that love was not there, but it's just not something that was said on a regular basis within our household. And I feel like between the two of us that we're shifting that and saying we're not going to hold on to the verbal part, that yes, we can display it physically through giving a hug. We might even do it by saying, hey, I've done something nice, here you go. But to actually verbalize that, I think sometimes we might hold on to that. And I love that we have been getting better as a family at saying, hey, I love you,
mhm,
or I really appreciate this,
mhm.
because I think that that is important. And even though some people will say, I show it through my actions. Yeah, that's wonderful. But I think sometimes we hold that phrase hostage and sometimes that's all a person wants is to know, oh, I care about you, I appreciate you. And that's something that is certainly important to me. And I will say the I won't say the downside, but I'll say the slippery slope is then I become this person who's doting potentially too much, where it's like, well, did I tell you I love you today? And so, and they were like, yeah, okay. But I think better to hold on to those positives, because I think we spend so much time sometimes just looking at the negative, or like we were saying, holding on to that negative energy and saying, okay, what's the intention behind what this person's doing?
Mhm.
And looking at it from that perspective, I think is essential too. I mean, I think that something I want to ask you, since we were talking about holding it and negatives and then potential positives, do you think that there's the idea of holding it, that there could be a strength around that, or maybe even a survival tactic for a person holding on to something? And it doesn't have to be negative or positive necessarily, but holding on to whatever that might be for you.
I guess it could be a strength
Hmm.
to hold on to things. I guess if you don't want to, if you want to spare someone's feelings,
Hmm.
like, you know, people, oh, how do I look? I mean, even something simple as that,
Hmm.
but they're so excited about their new hairdo or outfit, and you don't want to be the crusher. Like,
Hmm.
oh, you know what? You might want to rethink that whole thing. And I'm not into bashing people like that. That's kind of now that I have to spare you. I'll definitely want to spare you. I'm going to have to hold on to that
Hmm.
one, even if I mean, I'm not gonna let you. I'm your person. Like, I'm not gonna let you look crazy. But if it's not too bad, I'm gonna let you have your day.
Hmm.
Maybe we talk about it later
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
time, because
Hmm.
like people. People get really excited about certain things, and then you come in and be basically negative Nelly up in there, like, oh, by the way, that's not even your color. What's up with your hair? It's too short. Like, what are you supposed to be? I thought, and then then it doesn't even come out right. And you're like, dang, that was supposed to come out like that. But you can't take it back. You cannot take it back how you make someone feel. Your words, how they felt, that's how they're going to remember
Hmm.
forever. Like, okay, they made me feel this way. Versus if you make someone feel good, they're going to always remember that time you made them feel good and at peace. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, definitely. And even when you were saying about how the person's going to remember what was said, if it was something that was positive or negative, and how it made them feel, I think that's something that we got to keep in mind as we're talking about what we might hold on to. But what about the other person who's receiving what we choose to release? What we release, there's someone out there who's holding on to that. And that hold could be because it's something that's positive. Maybe you made their day and you said something when no one else did. And you said, "Oh, wow, I love that shirt you're wearing." And maybe it's just this random person and you don't even know them, but they're holding on to that for the rest of the day. And you're like, "Wow, this lady told me she liked my shirt. I didn't even know her." And that makes them feel good. Or, sometimes it's a negative where someone's holding on to, "I can't believe they didn't even hold the door for me." Like, so the physical holding and then the mental, why didn't they do that? And so that's one of the things I always try to remember is just, I mean, it's a lot of weight to carry, but just like I might be holding on to something someone else is. And even though it's not my responsibility necessarily to go around checking in with people and making sure that they're not holding on to any negative energy that I put onto them, I can be intentional in what I do. And like you said initially, what I choose to say and how I say it. And that doesn't mean that I'm walking around on eggshells necessarily, but one of the phrases, and it makes me think about when we were children, that I always hear is treat people the way you want to be treated. And the interesting part is that in adulthood, I know the way that I want to be treated is not necessarily the way other people may want to be treated. But at the same time, I always think about how would I feel if someone said what I'm saying? How would I perceive it? And even though I might be off base because someone may receive something differently, that still makes me think about my intention. And so that's one of the things I will say I hold on to is my intention. And one of the things I try to hold on to with other people is their intention. So we were even having this conversation earlier that even if I don't like what someone said to me, okay, let me process that. And in holding on to it for a moment, was this something that was meant to be hurtful? Do I feel that it was? Okay, no. All right. As you said, I'm going to try to release that back and not hold on to that. All right. And if it's something where I think they were trying to be mean, then I'll even process that and say, well, maybe they got some things that are going on with them and it has nothing to do with me. And if I get myself, and I used to get myself entangled in all of that and wrapped up in it and say, what did I do? How can I make this right? And then what happens? I'm holding on to all of the stuff they're dumping on me and I can't make it through life in a positive way because of what they gave me. And so I realized that it's so complicated, but but I realized that, okay, we all are in this situation where everyone's holding on to every little thing. It makes me think of when we were at the mall the other day and Sean I asked him, "Oh, can you hold my bag for a moment?" There's always someone, "Can you hold this? Can you hold that?" And so I look at it where we as people, sometimes you don't mind holding on to something someone gives you, and other times you're like, "I don't want this. How long I gotta hold this?" So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we need to hold it and there's not much else that we can do about it. But I think the beautiful thing is that for us in life is that we're able to still speak our truths, whether we choose to hold on to something for a little bit or for just a long duration of time, or not hold on at all. Like you said, when you were younger, you would just say what you had to say. So I'm wondering, uh, what was it? Not necessarily, I mean, it could be age, but what was it that made you say, you know what? Maybe there's some things I better hold back on and other things that I'm gonna say. Like, what was the shift for you?
Having children.
Ah, how so?
'Cause you can't some things you can't say, they're little people.
Mhm,
So, all that me saying what I wanna say, I can't because, they're like sponges. They're
mhm.
going to absorb every single thing you say and even spit it back out at you, and if you say the wrong things and then they're saying you can't really be mad at them. They're only saying what, they learned from you. So, having children
Mhm.
definitely, changed that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, even though I just have one daughter, I will say that has helped me actually not hold in as much. I mean, obviously, I'm not around, like, cursing people out and stuff like that, but holding in meaning being more assertive and saying what may need to be said and having tough conversations when the old me may have just said, "I'm gonna hold on to all of that," for fear of what the person's going to think, or, "Oh, they're not gonna be my friend anymore. Oh, they're not gonna like me anymore."
Mhm.
And then that comes back to what we were talking about of being 100% you. Well, then I'm no longer 100% me if I'm getting so hung up and caught on what everyone else is gonna say and think. And so when I think about Gwen and me not wanting her, obviously she's her own person, and she has her own personality, but in observing me, I don't want her to see me holding on to a lot of stuff. And then she continues on that path possibly because she's like, "Well, that's what my mom does. It seems like that works for her."
Mhm.
And I don't want her to think that works. I mean, perhaps it works for some people, but I think that it can, you mentioned about things being toxic. For me, I feel like that was a toxic trait because then I wasn't being comfortable with who I was because I was so concerned about everybody else and wanting them to be happy and all that type stuff. But
Mhm.
okay, so if you could go back to a moment where a situation didn't feel right and tell your younger self not to hold it and to let it out. What moment would that be? Or moments, maybe there's more than one moment where you, and by younger self, I don't mean necessarily child younger self. This can be, hey, I was in my late teens, my 20s, my 30s, wherever that might be.
Yes. Before my second marriage.
Mhm.
That would still be my younger self. It's
Mhm.
younger than 50.
Mhm. Mhm.
I would definitely have told my younger self, "Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Look at the red flags," instead of, I guess, ignoring them. So, yeah, I guess that one stands out a
Mhm.
lot for
Mhm.
me. I mean, I can't say the other one because if so, then I wouldn't have my 2 children.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'll go with that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go with that one.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I mean, I think that sometimes in those moments we might say, "Oh, we didn't see all the red flags and things like that." My previous guest, she said something that really resonated, Ife, and she said how one of her friends said they look like red hearts to me. And I think that that's sometimes what happens is
Agree.
what other people might see as red flags or after the fact. Initially, they seem like red hearts. "Oh, this is love." "Hold it. No, I'm going full steam ahead." So, yes. Mhm. Okay, so something else I wanna circle back to that, I mentioned is that you moved away from the setting of being in the classroom to the hospital, and so I'm just wondering, was there a specific moment in your teaching where you said, "You know what? This situation does not feel right anymore." And you knew, "You know what? I gotta make a change here."
Yeah, there's a lot of situations that I encountered as a teacher. Um, when I remember calling the parent up because her child decided to cut class, and this is 6th grade. I saw them in the hallway, like, oh, let me, call the parent up. I called the parent up. Parent told me, "Why are you calling me?" I'm like, "'Cause you're the parent." "Oh, but you're the teacher. That's not my problem. They're in school." I said, "I understand that, but I'm calling you to let you know so they're missing, academics for today. They're, not gonna have their assignments, explain everything to them." And she's like, "Well, again, that's your problem. Please don't call me with this mess again." And I looked at the phone and of, students in the classroom. So, I have to, hold my composure. So, and then she's like, "Yeah, and furthermore, I don't like your tone." And I'm laughing now, but I didn't even know how to react. Cause I'm like, you still gotta be professional. Students looking, they waiting to have anything to talk about. So then she told me she was gonna see me after school. And I said, "Oh, for real?" And I almost forgot I was at work. I was like, "Okay, all right, what time? Okay, 3 o'clock. All right, 3 o'clock."
Oh.
So I told the principal, and then I was cool with the security, well, school police, not security. And so he was like, "Oh, girl, we gonna be outside, teacher squad or whatever." So go outside, and she like, "Oh, yeah, what was all that you was talking?" I said, "I was telling you about your kid." I'm laughing because it's like hilarious. Like, this is crazy. This is like so silly. And she was like, "Yeah." And she had her phone. This was like, I guess when people started doing like this little live. She had her phone. She had a whole squad, and her squad basically consists of 12 and 13-year-old
Oh
kids.
boy.
I mean, I'm laughing now, but it was just so immature and terrible. And so she, busy talking, pointing, and, you personally know me. And, if I wasn't in that situation at school, it probably would have turned out a little different. But because I was at work, I was like, "Well, you could, whatever you want to do. But if you touch me, that's called self-defense." But she continued to, say whatever she wanted to say, and, whatever. She never touched me, obviously. So they end up getting a restraining order against her. She could never come up to the school again. She's like, "Well, how am I supposed to get my kid?" That's your problem. And so, I don't know, it was her, somebody put a little note on my, I don't know. So all these little things happen as to say, you know what? This school system is just terrible. Like, the parents got too much power. The kids have a lot of power. I mean, there's many more stories I could share, but that one just stands out the most.
Mm.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just start taking my prerequisites and, apply to, different colleges to see, since I already have a bachelor's degree, I can do, a second career program. And so, made it happen. A lot of sacrifices were made, but as you know, I'm sitting here now.
Yes.
So you're never too old. There you go. Never too old.
That's right.
Never
That's
too
right.
old.
Yeah. I think we hold on to our dreams sometimes based on thinking we're too old. And that is not the case. You're not old until you're dead. I mean, if that makes sense. There's people 80 getting degrees. Yeah, yeah. And then so you mentioned about, sitting here in your new profession. So I'm wondering if you were sitting with your daughter, who was a wonderful guest on the podcast, or even one of your nieces, or even just a young woman in the family who's currently in a situation where maybe the setting doesn't feel right, or they're struggling with what they should hold on to and what they should not. What advice would you give them?
So that's where my overthinking probably would come in at. It would kick in. I'm gonna have to think about different uh scenarios. I would tell them to give it a lot of thought. Give it some thought. Maybe write out those lists. Those lists still apply, to different situations, as far as your pros, your cons, what's going to happen if I do this. But the only thing, like you were saying, is that what we might think is going to happen might not even happen. Might be something better that happened, or it could be something worse. But you don't know until you actually act on it. So I guess that's, pretty much what I can offer as far as
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing is that so many people, they don't wanna act on it, and I mentioned earlier about the positive aspect of social media, and there was this reel that I saw, and it was just someone saying, "Just post it. Just post it." And it made me think about how many of people who might they love this picture. You mentioned how there was a picture of yourself earlier, and you not on social media, but just a picture. And you're like, I really like this picture. I got my hair done and this and that. And there may be someone who they're saying that about themselves, and you're like, oh, I'm going to share this. And then just like that, they're like, maybe I won't because what if someone says this? What if someone says that? And I think that sometimes you got to just act.
Mhm.
And the difficult part, I think, is having that discretion of when to think for a longer duration of time or when to think for a shorter duration of time and act. Either way, you need to act.
Mhm.
And the one thing I learn is even not acting is acting, if that makes sense. That from my end, and still being in the teaching profession, but yeah, K through 12 is a tough one. But still, occasionally have students who they are not doing well. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. And something that I do as a courtesy, whether the student is doing extremely well or not, I always send out messages. And I'll send out multiple ones. I'll send out one approximately 4 weeks or so into the semester, just in case there's someone who's off to a rocky start to let them know. And then if there's someone who's off to a really strong start and I want them to keep it that way, and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, you're doing awesome. And so then when we get closer towards that midterm point, I'll send out another one. And this one is where I occasionally have to send messages to students where they've reached a point of no return regarding failing the class. They might have a 20. Sometimes I have a student who has I had one student who had like a 12. Like they've done nothing. And I keep asking and they'll show up, just not do any work. And everyone has their reasons for why they're not doing what they're doing. But the point of this story is I will put in the message. I won't say you've reached a point of no return because I try to hold back on that type of phrasing, but I'll say I would be remiss if I didn't inform you that you're in a position where you can no longer pass the class, even if you were to receive or earn a one. I always say earn. I don't like to say receive like I earn a 100 on all of the remaining assignments. In this semester alone, I had 3 students who didn't fit that bill. There were more than 3, unfortunately, but there were 3 in particular who I put in the email informing them of the last day to withdraw, which was like 2 weeks out. They did not withdraw. And I had a student who sent me a message during finals week. Is there anything I can do? And I'm thinking, you could have withdrawn. And that's not me being mean, but and I'm thinking they didn't act. They had a choice. And so now not acting was acting. And so now, unfortunately, you're going to have an F on your transcript. And, it pains me, but I always tell people acting or not, either way, you're going to get a result. So same like you were saying with advice you would give, whether you think about it and then act immediately or think about it and take your time acting, either way, something's gonna happen. So, yeah. Okay, so as we, wind down our conversation, here's one last question. In uh, our first talk, you compared yourself to the American Eskimo dog, and you said because they have brains and beauty, and I'm just wondering, now that you've officially been 50 for what, almost 50 and some change now. Do you feel like you're more smart and versatile? Or maybe a little more sophisticated and apprehensive? Because you even used that word. Like, so where do you feel like you are? A balance between the both, or you lean more towards one than the other?
A balance of both, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm versatile now. I feel like I'm just a little bit sophisticated, just a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Yeah. How
So
so?
I'm just, I guess, with how I'm. doing things. Like before I know how I was, and I feel like I don't want to. I don't know if I really want to claim the auntie role, but I feel like I am there as far as the way I uphold myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And so I just have to say it's been an absolute gift sitting across from you. And, you know, we've known each other, or at least I've known you all of my life. And so I thank you for being this smart, versatile, sophisticated one and letting us see past any type of apprehension that you might have had in the past, and that you're not, holding back on who you are and being 100% you. And so, you've spent a lifetime being the cool one and transitioning from teacher to nurse. And I feel like that it's shown me uh, a certain type of strength that not everybody has. And I think that's something to be admired and applauded. And like I was saying, not holding back. So in sharing that with you, and I think it's necessary, and it's wonderful that you have went full steam ahead and that you are going after your dreams and goals. I mean, like I said, another 50 to go. And to you, the listener, may you find a setting this week where you don't have to hold back a single thing, including the urge to share this episode with your friends and family. Also, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Tricks My Dog Taught Me. Until next time, when I get into week 23's poem, Mark Your Territory, here's a very practical lesson from my little guy, Zach the Toy Poodle, who knows a thing or two about restraint. Whether you're keeping your pee or your opinions in check, the goal isn't just to hold it forever. It's about knowing where and when it's safe to let it go. Because at the end of the day, timing and surroundings are key. Take care, and I will see you next week.